Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Sineadra Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. Whoa, and just like that, I'm back like I never left. It is your fabulous host, Sineadra Washington, streaming from none other than Houston, Texas. And you have landed at the Her Voice Shines podcast. You already know it's the best podcast on the planet. Why? Because I am the amazing host and I bring the most amazing guests. I got a whole warrior today. I already looked through her information and her business. She don't know it yet, but I did. And y'all know how I do. We're going to do it like we always do. She's going to come to the stage, tell us her name, where she's streaming from, and we get the magic of her story without any further waiting time. Here's my very beautiful guest for today.
Thank you so much. So I'm streaming from Austin, Texas this morning, so not too far from you, Sineadra. And my story. So I was a product of the feminist era, and I jumped into my career with reckless abandon and had a lot of success. But what I found was that I felt something was missing. I really wanted to have a family. But for me, the traditional fairy tale just did not materialize. I had a really hard time finding the right person to get involved with, to start a family with. And so I had many misstarts. And I don't know if your audience feels that way, but what happened for me is that motherhood kept slipping further and further out into the future. And I ended up settling for someone, just kind of Mr. Convenient, Mr. Right Now, to try to have a family. And really, I struggled then for the next 10 years to become a mother through IVF and child loss and all kinds of things. And so emerging out of that, I started a nonprofit called Cheri's Choice, and I wrote a book really to help women be empowered with information and navigate their own paths to motherhood, hopefully more smoothly than I did.
Oh, I love it. And she said she had to settle. Cheri said,
yeah. Does anybody know that? Does anybody do that? Does anybody think about it things that way, or is it just me?
Let me tell you something, girl. Settling is dangerous. You know what I'm saying? I have literally, you wouldn't even believe the things that have happened to me in the past couple weeks. It seems like it's like one of those movies. Like, when is it coming to an end? There's been so many different challenges, so many different family things, and so many different parts. I was like, okay, this is really my life, Lord. Just make it stop. What's happening? But in that, there's a loss and everything. I said, you know what, girl? It was some things that you settled for. It's some things you said yes for that you should have a long time ago said no to.
That's correct.
So settling can be dangerous. Cheri, you know, she gave us a real cute introduction. It's always cute, but it's always like layers to this stuff. You know, we gotta put it back like an onion, like they say. But she said this, and this was in her information that we sent over to her. She said, if the glass slipper doesn't fit, that girl say, screw the fairy tale.
That is right. Become a mother on your own terms. And so my problem was that I could be anything I wanted to be as a mother, as a career woman. I felt like there were no limits, no bounds. But when it came to building a family, I was stuck in this hard-coded fairy tale that meant meet the right guy, get married, have sex, and have a family. And that was a linear progression. And the problem was I couldn't find that right person. And so I was playing this weird game of dating Monopoly where I'd go around the board and each time I'd be back on go and I wasn't getting what I wanted. And so that's incredibly dangerous then when you get to that point and you feel that you have to settle if that's the only model that you know to become a mother. And so that's really part of the script that I think we need to change.
Absolutely. And what she is not telling you guys is that after 10 years of struggling, she finally conceived at 44. Y'all check this out. 44 and 46 again. Tell me about what shifted in you emotionally when you finally conceived. What was that emotional feel like when it and the baby is coming and then again 2 years later? And wait a minute, at ages that people are deeming, oh, you know, you probably shouldn't be having a kid, you know, because that's what societal norms tell us. So tell us about that emotional shift when you finally conceived.
Well, conceiving was really only part of the battle. I went through this IVF journey, and for anyone who's been on an IVF journey, you know that it is full of disappointments, full of hardship, and it takes a long time to get what you want. So conceiving wasn't even really the story, but you get when you find out you're pregnant, you're full of hopes and full of dreams, and then sometimes it doesn't work out. And so in my situation, my first child, she wasn't meant for this world. And so I lost her. And I went forward then beyond that, and I was pregnant with twins, and I had struggles with my son as well, and ultimately had my daughter. But, so conceiving is just the hope of that opportunity of becoming a mother, but there was still so much to the story after that. So, I really had to struggle to be able to have the children I have today.
You know something powerful. You said I have one son. He just turned 8 last weekend,
Such a
and
great age. That is a great
oh
age.
man, he is so great, and I mean, he's a mature kid. He's kind of like me. He has like an old soul and everything like that. But there's just like this subtle sweetness about him, right? That you wanna hang on to. It's challenging because there's lots of energy, there's lots of question, but this is really subtle sweetness about him every day that you like, oh my gosh, I know this moment is going to change. They got to get older, but I just cling on to every day. But prior to when I had him back in 2017, I did have a miscarriage, and I had no information about miscarriage. Like people have miscarriages every single day. We never talked about it in my family. I remember years ago, my aunt, God rest her soul, she had a miscarriage when I was about 10 years old. And it was almost, I guess it was actually a stillbirth. And she lost her little girl. And our family just kind of went on with it. Cheri, we didn't talk about it. I remember my aunt being so sad. And then I just really didn't know I was just 10. So, kind of fast forward, I'm a 30-year-old woman and I have my miscarriage. And I'm just kind of just feeling so like lost and isolated, like I wasn't really prepared for. But what you said in that last segment, and it really gave me like a little bit of freedom. You said my baby wasn't meant for this world. And that child he just wasn't meant for this space. And
That's right.
and that's a different way to look at it. And I was like, oh, okay, they gave me like a little bit of freedom in that, because sometimes, of course, doing podcasting and different conversations, I'm taken back to that moment. And I did conceive it was very shortly after, about 4 months or 5 months after that. But I think it's sitting in that, and I felt so isolated. It was just kind of like the whys or the what ifs and all these different things that flood our heads, especially as women. Now, one of the things that you said about stepping into the fertility journey, you said, I felt like I walked in blindly.
Right.
Tell me, what do you wish you would have known? Yeah, look, you know I'm telling the truth here.
Oh,
Look,
you are. Yeah,
tell me,
absolutely.
what do you wish you would have known
Yeah.
before the journey?
So I had no concept really about the biological clock and what it meant. What I thought was, hey, medical science has evolved so far that, yes, I'll need some help, but this is definitely doable. And what I'm here to tell you is that biological clock is very, very real. And as women, to be empowered, we really need to understand it, and we need to know that we can make choices around that. When I was coming up, egg freezing really wasn't an option like it is today. And so when I had my children in my 40s, I elected to use an egg donor because, our eggs decline in quality over time, and that can cause real risks for our babies. And so I didn't want to subject my future child to that potential risk, but I didn't know egg donors existed, and so there are so many things that I just kind of took for granted. I saw all these celebrities having babies, and I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. But they're not telling you the whole truth. The fact is, biology is very unforgiving unless you plan for it.
Mm. And they do make it look glamorized. When it's no, seriously, like it really is a glamorized thing. And having two friends, consider friends, that have gone through the IVF process, and it's not glamorous. There's so much heartache and so many different emotions. Financial, we're talking about financial part. There's so many different levels to IVF. And I just look at the journey completely different. I actually had a friend, she was going to do adoption, before she did IVF. And then the whole adoption agency was a whole scam. Took all their money, went away. And then she had to start back and gather everything she had emotionally to go through the IVF journey. And guess what? It didn't work. Then she had to end up getting the surrogate, and her baby is now about 6 years old now, I think. But let me tell you something. I just want to say, of course, to you, Cheri, you already know, like when I have warrior women, I give them roses on the spot. Baby, you persevered and you waited to 40. Not that you just intentionally, like I wanted to wait, but you had to wait until 44 and 46. And guess what, girl? You still did it.
I did. And you know, and that's really a big part of the message to me, that if you feel that motherhood is your purpose, don't let anyone talk you out of it. And if you have the courage and the determination and you know that this is part of your calling, don't settle here either. Don't settle on the man, and don't settle for not having a child. There are so many paths to motherhood, and I really had to be open. I was a foster parent first, and that didn't result in, I had a beautiful little girl with me for 7 months, and she ended up being reunited with some of her family, and that too felt like a loss. And so I admire your friend for her courage to pursue all of those different paths. What I have learned is that motherhood is a sacred journey, whether it comes easily or whether it comes with a lot of strife. And so I feel, at least for myself, that I had to partner with the creator of life in order to create life. So for me, it was very much a faith journey that the right child was going to come to me and that we were going to be together.
That is so very beautiful. And when you get to this side, because I actually know for a fact there are a few women. I mean, I'm approaching my 40. This is my last big bang year in the 30s, girl. It's 39. I just turned 39 in June. So
You're looking good.
Girl, let's just wake up every day and glow and love God. You understand me? And it's so shine from the inside out. But I have a few women in my community who are about to turn over to the 40 range, and they are Cheri, they're very much down on, like, it's never going to happen for me. I really really want it, and I do believe they settled in the no. I do believe that they just it's not for me. And one of the things I love that you said, look, I've tried other paths. And maybe one of the paths that did not work for you, it may in turn work for them. You have to, of course, be open with that. And I know that after loving somebody, you're home for 7 months, that too was like a separation of detachment because you poured into. I'm just saying, I just know that when I was looking through the information, I was like, you have gone through and you have tried, and you're a perfect example of, baby, I did not say no. I tried a bunch of different things, but I was faithful enough to get to the yes that I knew was a really aligned for me. Now, let me say this. Now, you did have a custody battle.
Oh gosh, yeah. So
I want to go here now. You have to tell us about this and tell us why in Texas law let this man come in with his custody. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna give it over to you. Tell us. I'll give it over to you.
Okay. Well, I mean, yes, I'll spill all the tea about it. So, after I had been through all of this loss, all of this hardship to get my two children, I thought I was done, right? And because I had settled, I did I had gotten married, and I had embryos with my husband, who was then estranged, and so we share my daughter together. We co-parent. But after we separated, I decided I wasn't done and I wanted to have another child, so I pursued an independent pregnancy with a sperm donor, and an anonymous sperm donor at that. And so he was aware of that. We were living separate lives, but we were obviously in each other's lives because we shared a child together. And I was facilitating some visits because I got pregnant, and we were separated even when I was pregnant. So we weren't together for any part of my daughter's pregnancy. But so years later, we're talking 7 years later, my estranged husband sought to become the legal father of my son, simply because we were still legally married. And there is a law in every state called the presumed father law that says that if you're still legally married, then that man is presumed to be the father of your child, even if you used an anonymous sperm donor, even if you've never lived together, you hadn't lived together, even if you hadn't had sex in that time, even if he knew he wasn't the biological father or provided any support or been in any kind of fatherly role. And so that's what happened. And I had to give up visitation of my son for about 5 months, and I spent $250,000 protecting my right to sole parentage of my son.
Girl, I say, what is man? I say, where does man come from? He come from talking about, I read that girl, I was mad and angry for you. I say, I know she's probably gotten to a place to where she's healed from it, but it's fresh to me and I'm mad about it because
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And so many people have asked me why. And I think that's probably the topic of another podcast. And probably, he would have to go get his own psychoanalysis on that. But for whatever reason, what happened to me in the middle of that, I was, after everything I'd been through, Shanedra, I was like, why is this happening to me? God, why is this happening? And the answer that I got was, you're going through this so that you can help other women achieve their dreams of motherhood. And so the only thing we can do in these kind of circumstances is turn our pain into purpose. And so I thank him, because I would not be down this path if these ridiculous things hadn't happened to me. And that's why I started my nonprofit, Cheri's Choice, so that I could empower women. But also we have the objective to get those laws changed, because there is no way that someone who you haven't lived with, who you haven't had sex with, you're simply technically still married, should be able to put a family, and at the time my son was 4, put a 4-year-old child through that.
And because I mean that like basically put you into reform, because now you're like kind of championing. Who would have thought? Like if you look at all of your life, you're like, who would have thought I would have been championing legal reform? What I got to do with legal reform? Like you never know. Like ain't that crazy? Like I'm like the legal reform champion. Like how did I get here? Your life situation took you there. But what do you think? I mean, in terms of like, what could be changed in Texas law to prevent that? Like, what is one specific thing you think could be changed? You kind of talked about it a little bit, like before we got here, but like in your words, simply, what is one thing that could be changed to help women that may face similar situations to you, from this man that just pop up talking about, oh, I'm going to take custody of you?
Right. Well, the fact is, the presumption is all wrong, and it's not reflective of today's realities of families. Sometimes people stay married for other reasons, like financial reasons, or in our case, we had a shared business. And so people don't always stay married for love. So one of the things that needs to be changed is this presumption that just because you're legally married, they are presumed the father. It should be very easy to refute that presumption if you haven't had sex, if you haven't lived together, if he hasn't been in a fatherly role, and that can clearly be proven. It shouldn't have taken me 7 months total to defend that. It should be the opposite presumption. If you haven't done certain things, it's presumed that you are not the father. And so this is really something about our outdated court system, and the fact that, we think that the traditional family is pervasive. Well, it's still out there, but there's many other family models, and our laws need to reflect that.
I love that. And I think it's an excellent segue to this next piece, because like that's the education piece and that's tapping the next woman on the arm. But one of the things you talked about is like helping college-aged women. Girl, if you can help these ladies way back when, before they do the settling, before they start doing all this settling, it will really change them. Like, what's one myth you wish that you could probably debunk in an early lady's life? Because I was actually just talking to a guest last week, and it was not related to fertility. It was just choices. And I was saying, you know what? If I would have had somebody at like 23, like when I was just starting my career, to tap on my shoulder and tell me like these couple things, those little small things would have shifted my entire trajectory. And I'm not playing with you, because I remember having my back up against the wall and wondering how I get there. How do I get my voice? If I would have just had a couple different things, Cheri, it would have changed my entire trajectory. So if you're thinking about a young, early childhood, or not a young adult, I should say, what is something you would maybe tell her to help debunk this myth around it?
Right. Well, the key here is that in college, women are thinking about their career future and things like that. But there's really no education around family planning and what kind of family do you want. Typically, we grow up and we're part of a certain kind of family, and that shapes our ideas of the kind of family that we're going to have. I was in a traditional household, and so I didn't know there were other options. I spoke with a woman the other day who was raised by a feminist, and she had all this information, and I was like, why didn't I have this information? I was raised by a stay-at-home mom and it was wonderful, but I thought that was the only path. Yes, I could have a career, but I had to have a husband. And so it's really getting all of this information out for women when they're so much younger and say, there is surrogacy, there are donor conception, there's single mother by choice, there's all of these paths that are available to you. You don't have to be hard coded into just one path, because life's going to throw curveballs at you and you might not meet that perfect person. And you know what? You might be better off not settling, not getting divorced, and doing something on your own and allowing love to find you in its own time. I think that's a really powerful thought, that we're not helpless if we haven't met that perfect person. We can still achieve our dreams of motherhood, and still, that doesn't mean that we won't find ultimately that person that we're meant to be with.
Absolutely. And, just kind of not saying just put a break on finding love, but just do it a little bit more strategically, a little bit more intentionally. And you know what? Learn how to love you first. I promise you.
Oh.
I promise you this. And I'm learning this, in the latter part of my 30s and stuff like that. Because, people say this self-love stuff. Self-love is work and a job and a commitment and a forever thing. I promise you that when you really start to love yourself all the way from the inside and let it fill up, it's just certain things that you're not going to accept. It's just certain things that you're not going to go. It is certain conversations you're just not going to have.
That's true. And there's certain kinds of people you will not attract, which can be a really, really good thing. And so I know that so many young women have probably experienced divorce and things like that, but I don't know if they have thought about really consider what the impact is of divorce, and make sure that the relationships you're getting into are the right ones for you and for your children, because my children have experienced pain as a result of divorce, and I wish I could have spared them that. If I had chosen single motherhood and allowed love to find me in its own time, there would have been so much less pain on the journey. And I just want that for other women. That's my intention.
I love that. Now, I know we've already, kind of indirectly talked about Cheri's choice, which I think is fabulous. But I always like to have a clean segment that gives the overarching goal of that nonprofit, and really where our listeners can connect with you to learn more, whether it's websites, social medias. This is your connection segment. So I want to send it over to you for that.
Sure. So Cheri's choice, and I'm sure you'll provide a link, is really to provide education and counseling and community support for women who are pursuing unconventional paths to motherhood. It's really a resource where people can find out all kinds of information, because this is a complicated space: surrogacy and donors and adoption and foster parenting. I try to bring it all together, and I do it in a way that we can guide you through it and kind of provide some space for you to evaluate what is right for you. And so that's really what Cheri's choice is about. I also have my author website, cheribergeron.com, where you can learn more about Mission Motherhood. And I have a blog there where I talk about the various facets of the journey. And hopefully that can be of help too.
I definitely think it can be of help. And the beautiful thing about this podcast, I tell people, I've been on a honors course to life with this podcast, because I get to, I would never be able to get the experience, the insight, or any of that without sitting and talking to you guys. Because the thing about it is that it's so easy to look at people's lives through a certain lens. You never even had a conversation. You never even know what these people are going through day in, day out. And what this podcast does is allow women, because a lot of things, Cheri, people think they're all alone on the island. No one's going through this. No one has experienced this. But the power in the conversations, the freedom in the conversations is really, really what drives this place forward. Now, Cheri, I have designed 10 questions for you. I call it my rapid fire round.
Oh
They're
boy. Okay. I'll get ready. I'll get ready.
sweet. They're nice and sweet. It's just designed to keep you present and fun. All right, so you don't get a whole lot. You just get like a word, maybe a phrase. All right,
Okay.
let's
All
go
right.
ahead and get started. My first one, your word of resilience.
My word of resilience. Um, don't settle.
Mm, that's it. Tell me the first name you speak when you pray.
Father.
Mm. Sometimes you need to say thank you. Sometimes you need to have to ask for things. Sometimes you need to say thank you.
So for me, it's a parent. He's like, it's a
Mhm.
parent, the love of a
Absolutely.
parent.
He is. The biggest myth of motherhood that you rewrite.
That it's one size fits all. It's not one size fits all. It's as unique as our fingerprints.
Give me your favorite fertility fact to spread.
7 out of 10 women don't speak with their doctor about their fertility, and
Mm.
that needs to change.
Did y'all hear that? That's 70%. She said seven out of that. Okay. Look,
7 out of 10
that
ladies talk to your doctors, and they need to be talking to you too.
give me maybe not a line or maybe just the overarching theme in mission of motherhood. What do you one thing from that you just hope sticks more than anything else?
If the glass slipper doesn't fit, screw the fairy tale, ladies. Find another
One
way.
more
And if
time, Cherie, because this line right here, I'm gonna put it on this affirmation. I'm gonna put this over here on my wall over here. Say it again.
if the glass slipper doesn't fit, screw
Mm-hmm.
the fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Become a mother on your own terms.
Tell me this. What gives you energy?
The women who had the easy path, or at least it seems easy, right? Those that it was like seemed magical. And guess what? It probably wasn't. So that's even a fallacy in my own head. Everybody else's lives looked easier, looked effortless. It's not. But when you see it from, it's like the social media reality, right? That everything comes easier to someone else. That gave me envy. But I understand it more fully now.
Your go-to reset when things get a little bit overwhelming.
I go for a walk, and if that doesn't work, I go for wine.
Come on,
you
girl.
have to have a plan B.
Let's go back to age 40. That was a little bit before you conceived. Tell me what advice you'll give to 40-year-old Cherie.
The advice I would give is that there are paths. Don't give up. If you feel that this is your passion, there is a path to motherhood for you.
What is Cherie's glass slipper moment?
When I chose to become a mother on my own terms, when I said, I'm not going to be tied to this hard coded fairy tale anymore, I'm going to claim my right as a woman to become a mother because I have a lot of love to give and I want to have my family and I'm going to make it happen.
And here's the final one, and it's an excellent segue from the last one. I became a mother on my own terms
Because I refused to live someone
Mhm,
else's fairy tale and I
mhm.
claimed it for myself.
Cherie, now look at you stepping into that 10 rapid fire like you did. Okay, rapid fire. I love it. All the answers were fire. And this is the part in our show where we cue over to our guests for final thoughts. We tell them to give us some great parting words for this space and really something that captures the essence of Cherie. I told you it was like gonna feel like 30 minutes, but girl, look up there. We've been rocking and rolling. It didn't even feel like it. It
We
never
have
does.
been.
But I want to give it over to you for final thoughts, and I'll be over to close the show after that. Over to you for final thoughts.
Okay. All that I would really say is I don't know you, but I know your struggle. If you're feeling like you want motherhood, you want family, and it's not happening for you, you aren't alone. If you feel called to, check out my book. It's a girlfriend to girlfriend kind of talk. Or if not, feel free to reach out to me on Cherie's Choice or on cheribergeron.com. There is hope for you to become a mother. If this is your burning desire, listen to that. Absolutely listen to that. You deserve that kind of love in your life, and I want that for you. Don't give up hope and reach out if you need some support.
Oh, I love it. I told y'all she was a warrior woman. I told y'all she was going to come and bring it. And I have to thank you for being here, you hanging out with me on your morning and really sharing a good time. And really out there to everyone that's out there in the Her Voice Shines podcast land, I tell you, miraculous things happen when you let your voice shine. And there are women out there that may be going through the same things you're going through, even at a heightened level. That's why this platform is so powerful. And like I tell you, like the church folks say, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And we'll be back in another amazing segment in really no time. Thank you for being here, and we love you. But until then, we're out.
Thank you, Shanedra.
Oh, you're welcome.